Our brain likes to see as much of the other person's body as possible. When we are physically angled towards each other, it's our brain's way of saying, oh, we're physically aligned. I guess we better emotionally align.
Kofi Essel, is that how do you say it? Doctor
Kofi Essel, Dr. Kofi
Dr.
Essel.
Kofi Essel. Okay, so you met him. You're both studying at Emory, and he talked about how he connects with people as he's becoming like they're a new patient of his, specifically with kids and with parents in the room. Can you share? This is part of the body language of leaders. I mean, this podcast is packed full of leaders who are listening. How he does this so well to connect with his first time patients.
Okay, so there's a reason I picked Dr. Essel. He's a doctor. And this is important. So
high competence, yeah.
Yes. I picked a doctor because when we think about picking a doctor, we think about competence, right? Where we think about someone who went to a good medical school, who did well on their tests, who knows their stuff. We often don't think as much about warmth. Yet, research has proven that even doctors who we say, I only care about a smart doctor, we may give verbal, no, actually their warmth is just important. So Dr. Essel, who's off the charts in smarts, he had to create a nonverbal protocol for warmth because he knew and he knows that as soon as the kind of, if he's examining a patient, that's very high competence and it's very intimate. So he has a step-by-step process he's developed for himself, starting in the waiting room, getting them all the way into his office to try to create warm moments before they get into whatever they're going to say, because he found that if he was able to create warmth moments peppered with competence, they were more likely to take his recommendations. They were more likely to actually take the medication he wants to take. They were more actually to take care of their health in the way that he was hoping they would do it. So, for example, a couple of things he does that are not intuitive that we might do accidentally, but are extremely purposeful. One is he very purposefully engages in what's called fronting. So fronting is when we angle our toes, torso, and head toward the person we're speaking with. This is the one benefit of video calls, actually, is typically we are in fronting position, right? Like we're aligned right now, even though we're not in the same room, our toes and our legs and our torso and our head are on the same angle. One of the worst things that I see, a little mistake, by the way, for video calls, is I'll see people who have the camera over here. Yeah. So have you noticed that where the camera will be here and they'll be like typing over here and then they'll be like, and they'll look over their shoulder. So one is, even on video call, this matters. But what Dr. Essel will do is from the moment they enter the room, he angles his own body. He swivels his stool. He angles his own body to always be in alignment with the person he's speaking with. So when that's the child, so he's a pediatrician. So with his child, he's angling towards the child. And this is really crucial for building trust with children, because children are often ignored, right? They're often sort of, someone looks down upon them and says, what do you think? Okay, good. But we very rarely will turn our entire body towards the child. And then when each parent is speaking, he angles his entire body towards them. That is a very subtle way of showing respect. It's also an important part of our helping our brain to bond. Why? Our brain likes to see as much of the other person's body as possible. When we are physically angled towards each other, it's our brain's way of saying, oh, we're physically aligned. I guess we better emotionally align. It also triggers a whole loop with mirroring, right? Like copying each other, respecting each other, making better eye contact, seeing facial expressions. So it creates a loop. So first he fronts almost the entire time. He even does this while he's taking notes on his computer. So he's literally trying to take notes on his computer. What he will do is he will put the computer off to the side and he'll type off to the side, but keep his entire body angled towards the patient. He said that he has noticed that makes a fundamental difference in the amount of time that patients talk to him. So they are more likely to dig deep and tell him things he needs to know if he's actually angled towards them. So fronting is something he does. He also there's a lot of what I call nonverbal bridges. So nonverbal bridges are these moments, these cues that we do to slowly warm up someone from a warmth perspective. So in a doctor setting, he's about to touch a patient, right? He's about to like feel their heartbeat and feel their chest and feel behind their ears. That's very intimate. Going from 6 feet away all the way to an exam is a lot. And this also happens in person where you might be caught talking to someone across a coffee table or boardroom table, and then you never really quite feel like you connect. It's actually it's a proxemics issue. So you're not getting close enough. So what Dr. Essa will do is he'll lean in when he wants to really emphasize something, which immediately closes the amount of space between him and the other person. And the prefrontal cortex also activates. So a lean is one of the fastest ways. So if you want to try this wherever you are listening right now, sitting or standing, just lean in a couple inches. When you do that, it actually activates a specific part of your brain that's motivational, that's action oriented. The reason for this is because our senses, to smell it better, hear it better, taste it better, touch it more, you have to lean in. It's like a pre-activation mode. And so when we even lean in interaction, it helps activate that part of our brain that wants to take action. It closes the spatial distance and also signifies I'm super into you. Like I want to take action. So all those little things, if you're a golfer, if anyone's a golfer, these cues are small, but they make a massive impact on your game. Just like changing micro adjustments in your swing, it's the same exact thing with cues.
One small one in an office setting that I remember doing, I still do this when having a one-on-one with someone, let's say that they work for you, if you're a manager, and normally you're sitting behind your desk and you got your monitors here and the person's kind of sitting over here, right? And you kind of angle towards them. I actually would take the chair and move it to the side of the desk. Mm-hmm. And that way there is no barrier between me and the other person, and there's no screens. It's just me and them, and we're talking. Now I have a notebook and a pen, so you could see as I've been taking notes the whole time you're talking. I like to take notes, but other than that, there are no barriers. There's no desk in between us. It is showing them I am 100% focused on you for our time, right? Good verbal, like nonverbal cues, all of that I think is a big part of it. But that little simple thing, because I would actually wait till they come in, they'd sit down, and then while I'm still sitting in the chair, because it's obviously on wheels, it moves around to the side of the desk and they see it. They maybe even subconsciously like, oh, okay. And that's how, and then the meeting starts. And I think those little things can make a really big difference. Because I've had a manager before, Vanessa, I don't know if you had one like this. They had a TV in their office. They would sit behind their desk. The TV would be on behind me. And this is what they would be doing when we talk. I'd talk, and let's say I was talking for more than 15 seconds, so I guess I was boring them. They'd go like this.
Oh, my.
And I'm like, are you serious, dude? Are you really watching TV during our one-on-one? I'm here for like 30 minutes every other week. So I think like little things like that, like, and this guy was a smart guy. I'm not going to say he wasn't. So just, these are things to think about. I don't know if you have any stories from
I have a little tip on this. That's like outrageous, by the way, like absolutely outrageous. So please do not have a TV behind you in your office. Okay. That's tip number one. But tip number two is, if you have someone who's overhead gazing you, so that's actually a very common issue, that you might be in an office and someone's looking behind you at a television, or you're in a restaurant and people are seeing who else is in the room. You're at an office party or networking event and people are scoping out who's better to talk to. It's the worst, right? Like,
yes.
So here's what you can do. So either you can ignore it and be like, this isn't my person, because it's very disrespectful. So that's option number one. Option number two is, and this works really well, is look where they're looking every time they do it. Oh. So when they look behind you, like look behind you and be like, is someone there? Oh, sorry, I saw you looking. And they do it again. Oh, sorry, I saw you looking. You will train them out of doing it because you're showing them that's how distracting it is, friend. When you look behind me, I want to look behind too. It's super distracting. And so you should actually interrupt the flow of your conversation to show them how bad it is. And they either will walk away because they'll want to scope the room. Cool, go get a drink, or they will stop doing it, which is great. I also want to mention, we have a lot of leaders who are listening. And so like, let's go a little bit advanced, which is, you mentioned going around the table. Yeah. Brilliant. I want to break this down as a tool that you can keep in your tool belt.
Okay.
So there are two different ways that we can be intimate with someone. And I don't mean like romantically, I mean like open connection, open book, sharing, collaborating, building a lot of trust. Oxytocin. Oxytocin is the chemical of connection. The first is fronting, facing each other without barriers, right? So ideally you don't have a desk in front of you, but if you do, you're giving eye contact or trying to be aligned. The second way is you remove all the barriers and you go into their personal space. This is an alternate. You might have people who prefer this because the one-to-one eye contact is actually too much.
Mm.
There are people who prefer, this is why some people love sitting at a bar next to each other as opposed to sitting at a table facing each other. We have subtle preferences like this. So I know the people in my life, like this is, I have a lot of parents of teenagers. My daughter is a toddler, so we're not here yet, thank goodness. But I have parents of teenagers tell me, when I'm sitting in the car next to my child, they tell me everything. The moment I'm facing them, they're like, no, no, too much, too much, too much. So you have two options here for getting someone to open up and connect. One is fronting, angling towards them. But if that's not working, if that's too much for someone, try walking next to each other in step if you can. Try driving next to each other or sitting next to each other. Try sitting at the bar together next to each other. That is an alternate, or try scooting your chair over to their side of the desk. I would try this in a couple different ways because you'd be surprised at what level people are have as a preference.